there's no doubt that there's a change in seasons, global warming, whatever you want to call it, whatever it might be. There's something changing. It hasn't just happened the last 2 years. This has been going on for the last 10 years.
When you're on the land and when you make your living from the land, and most of the businesses that support our community are really reliant on the products that are produced from the land here, then it's critical that we are ready to deal with the effects of droughts and floods.
Well, I just think that the government not that you expect governments to bail out all sorts of businesses and all these things, but on that farm family household allowance, everybody here that has applied for it, Deb and I applied for it, but we couldn't get it because of her off-farm job.
So we actually had a farmer who was too proud of his farming land, and he didn't want to go in front of people and ask for help, and he actually broke down at a service station, and we had to come to him to hand him his stuff.
They are dressed in original clothing and displayed in settings which reflect the times.
My name's Emma Bailey, and I've been living in Tamworth for 21 years, since being born. I work at 88.9 FM, which is our community station in Tamworth. I've got a lot to do with the community. I'm also in production and as well as an announcer on 88.9 FM. The drought has affected me personally, as my partner, of course, owns a business, which is going down a fair bit. It's struggled a lot, which affects time at home. Because the pressure's really high. It also affects me personally because I've grown up with farms, I know farmers, I've seen firsthand what it's like to be in a drought, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. It hasn't been this bad in a really, really long time, and it affects you in so many ways because it hurts you to see everyone around you hurting.
If they want farming to survive, we'll have to probably go back to a rural banking situation or something where interest rates and some of those things are at a lower rate that farmers can get than a straight out bank loans and those sort of things, or subsidies or something along those lines. The biggest problem is that feed is getting not only very expensive, it's getting very hard to source. From my point of view and the local area, it is probably the worst we've ever seen it for a prolonged period. Suicide and those sorts of things in a farming situation, we all know families, and you don't have to go far, that there's been a lot of suicides and they're not reported on. It's a thing now that's the suicide side of it's not talked about, but there has been, I know that by talking to different ones, that probably in the last 6 months in the Tamworth area, there has been quite a number of suicides and those things, all debt and drought related. The banks, I think, have had a bit to do with a lot of that. They've been pretty solid on a lot of people. But we've been very grateful for any help that we've got, and it's just a moral support, I suppose, is all you can say. Financially, the financial help is only a very small side of it. It's more an emotional help that just gives you enough encouragement to want to continue on, I suppose. It's very disappointing in another respect that from this bio-bale and all that sort of thing, most of that hasn't made it over the New England ranges. Most of that's all been Tamworth and to the Western Plains country, which is in extreme dire bloody straits, there's no doubt about that, but I think the New England's been forgotten as far as any of the bales or any of that sort of stuff brought up into our area. There's been very little of that at all, but food hampers and things from local communities have done a great job. I think there's been the Salvos and some of the other church groups and stuff have been round and door knocking and doing hampers and things. So it's a even though it's, you know, in the big picture, the hamper of, you know, it's not the value of the food that's in the hamper. It's the fact that somebody somewhere else has thought to, these poor buggers are doing it hard or whatever else. You know, I'm not, what would you say, very, very grateful, not from the financial help, but it just gives you a feeling that somebody else out there is caring, and that it gives you a sense of, you know, we might as well keep going at this, like, you know, it's, you don't chuck in the towel sort of thing.
We're the fourth generation to be in this district, and we're a grazing operation with sheep, cattle, growing crops to fatten our stock for market. We had floods back in 2016. After that, we went into the last 12 months being as dry as we've ever had, and now the outlook is very grim.
Well, I'm expecting it's going to be like, it's really hard to know because back in 2016, we, like Dad said, we had a fairly bad flood, and then now we're going into a drought, so it's fairly hard to know what it's going to be like.
I'll tell you how it is. We haven't seen a cent. I know all my neighbours, friends, other farmers, no one sees that money. I don't know where it goes. I think it goes to the people that are on benefits already, and they're in the system, they've got their account with Centrelink, so straight away they're the ones that cry out poor, they're the ones that get the money. It's not going to the fund. I don't know where it's going. I really don't. I don't know, but I give up. I can't be bothered, you know, exhausting myself and energy over this sort of thing, because it's, yeah, all the media, I've done probably 5 or 6 interviews in the last 5 or 6 months with TV crews and stuff, and I felt that it's just been a waste of time. We can't do anything. It's our politicians, our local member, it's our state member, our federal member. It's up to them, but they're not educated when it comes to this sort of thing. They've got a lot to learn.
Look, in the position, in a civic leader's position like the Mayor, there are many struggles, I guess, you need to come to terms with on behalf of your community. A lot of aspirations that are clearly articulated to you in local government, mostly at the beginning of a term when community consultation is at its highest. We hear about what the aspirations of our community are moving forward. We go about those plans in a methodical way at council, make a long-term plan of how we'll deliver and what steps, I guess, and priorities we need to make. So when a drought or a major disaster event happens, like a drought in a community, it really hits you from the side. You are on a task, or you're on a focused area of what you want to achieve on behalf of the community, and everybody in the organisation is going about that with 100% commitment. So to need to stop, to need to, I guess, look at the impacts that drought is making in your community, and as a local government organisation, what can we do to support those sectors of our community that are really affected? So one thing I would say to those in metropolitan areas, what's your council doing? Do they have a relationship with the regional council somewhere in New South Wales or further afield maybe it's time for them to reach out and just say, do you need a hand? Can we help you? If they don't have a sister city relationship, if they have any connection or looking for one, I'm sure there's plenty of local government areas in regional and rural centres of New South Wales that would love to hear from them. I am quite proud of the way that this organisation has been able to adapt. As I said, we were on a pathway of delivering for our community and then being hit by this, from left field in the side. It's been very encouraging to see the elected members, but the total organisation look within as to how we can best support our community through this. We know there's a long way to go. We know the drought, the forecast of decent rain aren't until the first quarter of next year. So there's a long way still to go. But the great thing about this rural community is we have a community that is full of volunteer groups and people that care for each other. Doesn't matter what colour, what race, what religion, we're all here to support each other, and that's when you really know how healthy your community are in desperate times as to how well they rally around each other, and that's very heartwarming and encouraging once we get through this drought to see what we really can achieve.